So for the group, we'll start with Linda, Rachel, and then Thomas. What keeps you in restaurant marketing?
For me, it's definitely the people. I love the people that I've met since I started in restaurant marketing, whether it's the vendors, the people on my team, working with the guests. It's such a great culture and it's so much fun and everybody seems to be having a good time all the time, so I love it.
Awesome. Rachel?
For me, it's more of, I started off just as a general marketing and advertising company. I was going 2 miles wide, 2 inches deep, trying to learn all of these different industries and, apply different marketing techniques. And I just fell in love with hospitality, the people. Working in hospitality is such a sensory experience. And so I narrowed down my focus and only focus on hospitality now.
For me, restaurant marketing and branding is one of the major touch points to build a relationship with our customers. So for us, I get to have the fun part. I get to build relationships, nurture them, and actually be able to create events that hopefully have an impact in the community. So I have a lot of fun doing that.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, guys. Well, let's go ahead and start here. This is always a great question. Thomas, what kind of marketing works on you? We're marketing people, but what kind of marketing actually works on you?
I like marketing that is original and unique, right? We see the same stuff over and over and over again. So for me, whenever I see a shoe company or different kind of companies create content that I haven't seen before, that's the kind of stuff that appeals to me.
Rachel, what about you?
For me, I love social media marketing. I feel like that is probably the bread and butter. I do lots of things, but if I'm going to choose where I'm going to spend my time, it's going to be in social media marketing. I love the interface with clients and customers. I love being able to have real-time interactions with people. And I just feel that, I always tell people when I was younger, people would ask me what I wanted to be and I didn't know because my job didn't exist yet. And so today it's just so amazing to be able to have these platforms provided for us, for the most part for free, that we're able to utilize, connect with our customers, and market our businesses.
Perfect, thank you. So one thing that we see in the industry is marketing is everywhere, right? There's so many things that you can do right, and so many things you can do wrong. Linda, what are a couple things that maybe some brands are just doing wrong in marketing?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I see brands making these days, especially with what Rachel was saying about the availability of all these social media platforms, is not engaging enough with their guests or their potential guests. I just don't think it's enough to get on there and talk about your brand or your food. I think you have to make that a two-way conversation. I don't think I see enough brands out there that are really trying to get the guest engaged with what they're doing, whether it's their cause marketing, whether it's their promotions or their contests. We have this ability now to have this two-way conversation with them, and I think more brands need to take advantage of that.
No, that's great. And Thomas, what about you? What are some of the mistakes you see out kind of in marketing?
Probably for me, the most relevant or I guess biggest mistake I see restaurateurs make is how they interact with customers in like foodie groups or public-facing forums. I've seen some owners get on there and just do more damage than anything they could possibly cook up in how they respond. And that response is going to be there for a foreseeable future, whether it's on Yelp or TripAdvisor or in a Facebook foodie group where, thousands of people can see what kind of character, what kind of restaurant he operates. And so it's very damaging, more damaging than people realize, I think.
No, I think that's great. That's kind of one thing that as owner-operators and even marketing people, we need to always just remember, disconnect your emotions sometimes. And yes, you maybe were the one that cooked that burger or that chicken fried steak, but just, hey, sorry about that, come back in, we'll make it right. And not say, well, no, that chicken fried steak was cooked perfect.
Well, I think that there's a common misconception that reputation management is not marketing, but really it's its own form of marketing. So the way you appear to people on Yelp, Google+, Facebook reviews, pretty much every single platform that's available is a marketing tool for you. So we're human. We have the human element. People are always going to make mistakes, but oftentimes it's more about the way you fix it than making sure nothing goes wrong. Something always goes wrong. But when you're able to log into these platforms, manage the situation, whatever it may be, in a professional manner, it oftentimes will earn you a more loyal customer than the person who left you the bad review.
Absolutely, I think that's great. When opening a new store or location, I know all of you guys have helped out, whether it's marketing men or actually, boots on the ground, opening up a new location. What are one or two marketing tactics that you've kind of done to kind of get legs up underneath that when you're opening it, Thomas?
For us, we market first to our current customer base, always. That allows our team to have some practice and actually get some constructive criticism without, dealing with someone who hasn't had your restaurant before, right? I don't want someone like a new customer trying the food of our new location on the first day. I know that sounds a little weird, but for us, we try to stack that first week with as many soft opening events so that we have all of our vendors, friends, family, my mom, come out and tell me how bad it is so I can fix it before the public gets to it.
By the way. You have to always have your parents there. What about you, Linda? What is kind of you've done before, or what does the Fuzzies do?
Yeah, so we have a couple of things that we find work well. Now, we're largely franchise group, so a lot of what we do depends on franchisee preference. It depends on if they're first to market, second to market. But a couple of the things that we do is we've started doing giveaways. I mean, people love to win stuff because we'll do, like, the first 50 people in line will get free tacos for a year, and the next 50 will just get a t-shirt. And even if somebody shows up and they know they're number 70, they will camp out there and wait for the t-shirt. It's kind of mind-boggling. And the other thing that we do is we try to have some kind of a philanthropic tie-in to our soft opening. So we might be serving people for free in order to train our staff, but a lot of times we'll accept donations for a local charity. And that really seems to help us get entrenched into the community right off the bat.
Awesome, that's great stuff. How about once you've already established your restaurant and your concept and you're open, you've been open for a while, what are some things that you can kind of go back and revisit and kind of pull out of your marketing treasure chest? I'm going to start with you down there, Linda.
Yeah, well, if any of us up here had the right answer to that, we'd be on everybody's short list of marketing people. I would say for Fuzzies, we have a little, and I don't know how many are familiar with Fuzzies Taco Shop, but we have a little bit of a cult following. So for us, once the restaurant's open and running, we tend to focus on our loyalty program, reaching out to our frequent fans, our more likely customers, whether it's through flash sales, double points. They're a great audience for us to reach to because it's, I'm not going to go so far as to say low-hanging fruit, but we know that these are people that already like us, they already come to our restaurant. So I always tell my stores, if you can get all of them to come in one more time each month, then it's going to have a tremendous impact on your bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Rachel?
I completely agree with Linda. In most of your point of sale systems, there is a algorithm for this value called a customer lifetime value. And so basically what it tells you is it costs a lot more to bring in a new customer than it does to maintain an existing customer. And so once you kind of get your feet on the ground and get a little bit more established, my first focal point is always to increase customer loyalty, offer incentives. And I mean, a lot of my restaurants don't do free items, they don't do happy hours or giveaways. So it's not always about giving away something free. It's just about making sure the customer knows that they're valued.
Awesome. What about you, Thomas? What do you guys do?
I think it's important to take time to schedule out the groups that you want to target and stagger it. One of the mistakes we've made in the past is just like blasting out all at once. Our Katy location opened July, August of 2017. We used all of our bullets. We were at capacity every night. And then Hurricane Harvey happened. And then it seemed like everyone forgot that we opened. And so I had to do the whole process over again. Now I know a hurricane doesn't happen all the time, hopefully not. But for Woodlands, for example, we're going to stagger it out because everyone knows when you open, you're going to have that kind of honeymoon phase everyone wants to try it, and then there tends to be a dip after the second or third month. So you need to be proactive about it and make sure that you save kind of like your marketing impact and stagger it out so that you can continue to get waves of momentum going.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, another way that you can kind of back up your marketing after that initial push is to employ PR. For those of you living under a rock, I'm sure everybody knows what PR is. It's public relations. And so basically, you know, people have this misconception that food writers, you know, when they make a list of, you know, the top 10 places to eat on Memorial Day, that the food writers actually went and vetted out those restaurants, but that is in fact not what happens. Your publicist submits information to these food writers, and they do vet to a certain degree, but having somebody speaking for you is a really big deal. It gives you kind of front of mind awareness, and so if you're constantly popping up in, you know, best patio bars and where to stay when you visit Houston, where to eat when you visit Dallas, if you're constantly popping up in these lists, you kind of go to the forefront of people's minds. You know, I really meant to try that place. I keep hearing things about it. And so public relations is a great way. I mean, obviously public relations is great to open a restaurant, but it's so important to keep that ball rolling and keep the momentum going so you are able to have a little bit more consistency in your public awareness.
Thank you. No, that's great.
Can I add one tip to that?
Yeah.
One massive mistake that a lot of us make is make sure if you ever someone does reach out for a story or a feature, don't respond the next day. These writers are on a very tight timetable a lot of times. I mean, if you get it, do your best to respond immediately, or you're going to get passed and they're going to find somebody else, because it's not like most of us are used to, like, hey, he texted me, I'll text him back in a few hours, or I'll respond tomorrow. It doesn't work that way with PR.
Absolutely. And another thing I'll say is give them a virtual thank you. Post it on your social media, tag the writer, tag the publication. I mean, it's kind of a faux pas these days to not do so. If a writer takes their time to do a beautiful write-up of your restaurant or include you in one of their roundups or lists, I mean, the least we can do is get the word out there and give them that virtual thanks for the shout out, thanks for the love. Just however you want to verbalize it, whatever fits best with the verbiage your brand typically uses. It's very, very important. And then to tack onto that, social media and PR are best when they coexist. So basically, if I'm getting a ton of PR and it's going out into, you know, the foodie world, and people are, you know, on Houston Chronicle or Culture Map or what have you, reading about, you know, whatever's been written about you, that's fantastic. But when you're able to patch that message through to people who have already expressed interest in your brand, that really makes it work harder for you. And so posting it on your own social media and making sure that you're getting it out to your own following, that you got that highlight, is very key.
Perfect, thank you. Let's shift gears here, and we're still going to talk marketing, but let's talk data. Big data, little data, in between data. You know, data is everywhere. It's in your point of sale. It's on social media. It's in your car. It's on your phone, of course. What is one way that your operation today, Linda, is using data?
Well, I'm a little bit of a data dork, and I really think the future of marketing executives is really shifting, where, you know, you really have to embrace data and you have to use it to make your good decisions. We use it for everything from menu. You know, what items do we want to keep on the menu? What items do we want to take off? Which items are driving more repeat behavior? Which items can we raise price on without negatively affecting purchasing behavior? So we use it a lot from the brand level to look at, you know, our market basket and our product mix and all that. We also use it down at the promotion level. So if and Fuzzy's does not do a lot of discounting because we're kind of in the value space already, but if we send out a mailer and we do an offer, we always track that to see which offers are the most redeemed, which keep people coming back 30 days, 60 days, 90 days later, because you have one kind of offer that everybody comes in for, but those people don't ever come back again. So we use it to make adjustments and make better decisions about the offers that we put out there. I mean, we use it at the store level to see which day parts need to be increased, you know, which stores could have higher alcohol sales, higher off-premise sales. I mean, I just think there's almost no part of marketing these days that data shouldn't touch.
So you guys are getting your data, I'm guessing that's going through your point of sale system.
It does go through our point of sale system, but we also have a third party like analytics software that we use to kind of cull that into something more usable for the everyday person. You know, I mean, I obviously have point of sale reports that I can run, but it doesn't track some of those things like, are these people coming back? That's tied to transactional data and credit card data. So we have a tool that we lay on top of our POS system data that we get that helps me run those kind of reports and those analytics and tells me, you know, when people buy this, they're also buying this. So if you take this off the menu, expect to see this go down as well. You know, those kinds of things that you don't get just from the transactional information.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk now social data. So what are some of the things that you and your firm looks at as far as data for owners and operators?
Well, I'm a firm believer that marketing has to have strategy. I think the biggest mistake that people make is trying something new and giving up too early. If you don't see the numbers, if you don't see an automatic jump, you just kind of like abandon your ship. But consistency is so important, and watching patterns is very important. Like I said earlier, we're so lucky to have all of these amazing platforms available to us. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. I mean, there are all of these platforms, and not only are we able to use them free of cost, they also offer us really powerful analytics tools. And so if you're able to get in and kind of view what your followers like versus you know, maybe something that didn't work as well, you're able to make some decisions based on kind of like what Linda was saying, based on where you're going to go in the future. So overall, I mean, we use data in every single post that we write, every single advertisement or dark ad that goes out. By the way, dark ads are ads that are not posted on your actual page. They're created in another platform, which I'd love to talk about in a little bit, Facebook Blueprint and Power Editor. So basically, another really great tool to test your reach is to do A/B testing, which is something that I don't see a lot of people doing these days, but it's so valuable. So basically what you do is you take content and maybe pick 2 different ways to post it. You post it at the same time 2 weeks in a row, and say I have a picture of a taco and a link to a taco event. So maybe one time I would post the link and let it populate to see if I get more click-throughs to the link, if it's actually populated in the post, versus just posting the link and using a picture on the post itself. And so, you know, the cool thing about the hospitality industry is that when something works for one person, it might possibly not work for another person. And so you kind of have to find your voice, test things, use A/B testing, read your analytics, and don't make any hard and fast decisions. If you kind of feel like something's picking up a little steam and you'd like to see it through, I highly suggest when you create a kind of marketing campaign to always see it through.
Perfect. No, I think that's a great segue into, I think, really what a lot of people are here to talk about is marketing, and now we're going to start social media marketing, right? I mean, it was MySpace, and now we're looking at Facebook, and Facebook's not going anywhere, right? So within social media marketing, Thomas, what kind of experimental stuff have you guys done in social?
I mean, for us, social, we're on Facebook and Instagram mostly. Instagram is great because we have, you know, that's the best way visually. Some people are very visual, so they like to look at pictures. Facebook is great too. Well, I mean, you can interact with customers both ways. I mean, for us, experimentally, we like to go outside the box a bit because at this point, 10 years later, we've posted every picture of our food that we can. So we have to continue to do unique things. You know, for us recently, I'm into fitness, and so recently I did 30 days of PPK where I ate at my restaurant for 30 days straight, lunch and dinner, to see if I would lose weight. That was, you know, posted on social media to try to get traction, and there was a market, there was a demographic of people that did care about their weight, that do care about what they eat, that are looking for keto-friendly items that we were able to kind of connect with and build upon that. So that was one thing we did.
Perfect. Linda, what about you guys? What kind of experimental marketing are you guys doing in the social space?
Yeah, so, and all brands manage this differently, but we have, you know, brand social media that we push out to the whole system that, you know, we really use to promote our limited time offers, kind of talk in our brand character, you know, try to engage with people, but still from the brand level. And then at the local level, our franchisees and our locations also have the ability to share things on social media, and that's where you can get the engagement going, and that's where it's important for them to be, you know, what I would call opportunistic and agile. Some things we can't do from the brand level. For example, if it's pouring rain in Kansas City, we'll tell the Kansas City group to do a post about online ordering because people don't want to go out when it's raining. And so sometimes getting in front of them at the right time, you know, can make a difference and actually drive some traffic with social media, which tends to be, you know, sort of touch and go.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Email marketing. I know we kind of talked about email marketing briefly when we all met for the first time. Rachel, I mean, is it still relevant? What's your take on it?
I do. I think that it's still relevant. I mean, I don't know how many of you do this, but before I check my social media in the morning, I always check my email. And so I love email marketing, but I think that there is a very fine line you have to walk, because if you start to send emails just for the sake of hitting the I have to send an email once a week, but you don't have anything to say, it kind of, you start to lose your audience, lose your following. Only send an email when you really have something to say.
I agree with that.
What do you think, Linda? I see you shaking your head over there.
I agree with what Rachel said. We actually don't do email marketing outside of our loyalty program because when we were setting it up, we didn't want to ask people to opt into too many things, and so we decided to really funnel them into our loyalty program. And so we communicate with them through email there. But I agree with Rachel. You know, we normally do, you know, they get a half birthday email, they get a sign up email. When we're doing a big promotion, we send an email out. But if you overuse it, you start to lose people very quickly, and they'll start to opt out of your emails. We all know that as consumers, right? There's some that every day you open it up. First thing in the morning, my phone goes off. I have an email from Bed Bath & Beyond every single day. I'm like, okay.
You give me a 20% off coupon. I get it.
Well, I know I like that, but I just think it's important for your brand to know how often people are willing to engage with you, because you don't want to lose them.
And Thomas, what about you guys? Are you guys doing email marketing?
We absolutely do. You know, I'm just like Rachel. I check my email before I'm even completely awake, and probably 100 times a day. I think there's a significant portion of our customer base that still uses email, and they don't even get on social media. And so I think you have to be careful. Obviously, social media is massive, but there should be a significant part of everybody's business who doesn't participate in social media, and so email is one way to reach out to them. And to her point, absolutely, you have to. I mean, social media, everything's the same. If you do it the wrong way, if you annoy people, they're going to turn you off. And for email, it's a really easy, quick thing to do, and I do it all the time. You know, there are certain restaurants that I still get their emails, and I'm like, I need to opt out of this, but they always get me like every month. I'm like, ugh, you know, exactly. And so, you know, the minute that they keep, you know, they become not relevant, then I'll opt out. But for the most part, I've had email subscriptions to various restaurants in town for the last 6 years.
Perfect.
I would say too, to pay really, really close attention to your headline. And so, I mean, make your headlines compelling. I read an article in Forbes that talked about how headlines that inspire awe, anger, or fear have like a 19% higher open rate. It's in a standard restaurant space. And so basically, that sounds crazy. It's like, why would I want to make somebody feel angry or anxiety? But it's things as small as, instead of 5 reasons why you should come to our Cinco de Mayo event, you say 5 reasons why you cannot miss our Cinco de Mayo event. So you kind of play off that like FOMO, thing that people just don't want to miss out on it. And so that would be a good example of an anxiety-inspired headline.
Awesome. Yeah, I had FOMO missing this segment today. I was not going to wake up, so I'm glad I made it and woke up. Social media marketing. I'm going to have each one of y'all give away one little tip, one little nugget, and it can't be the same one. So I'm going to start, Linda, you get the easy, you get to kick it off, and then Thomas, sorry. So one social media nugget that you can give out.
So one thing that we tell our franchisees is if you're doing some kind of a big promotion or you're having some kind of an activation, to create it as an event in Facebook, because it'll show up differently in people's pages than if you just create a post about it. So one trick that we tell them is create an event. It can even be for a happy hour, or you're having music on the patio or karaoke night. Don't just do a post, actually create an event. Then when people say that they're interested, it'll show up on their friends' feeds because they're interested in going to this, and you generate a little bit of synergy from that.
Okay, so Facebook event. Create
event.
a Facebook event. Rachel, what's your one golden nugget?
Food photography all day. Get good images of your food. It doesn't have to be a photographer that you pay, $10,000. You can find a local, reasonable, up-and-coming photographer that gets really good pictures of your food. You never want your food to look too ethereal, like you want it to look like something you would actually eat. Some of these platforms, like Instagram, for example, you can only post on Instagram from a mobile device because you were only meant to post pictures that were taken on a mobile device. And so you want to have pictures that are relatable, something that you look like you could actually eat, something that's visually appealing, great lighting. If you can't afford a food photographer, call U of H. Find a photography student that's willing to do it for free. Call your local university or community college. There are so many outlets, but that is one thing that I would say when I first start working with a new restaurant or brand, that's one of the very first things I do. I mean, who you are is identified by these images, and it's very, very important to, at least if you're not going to do food photography on a regular basis, it's very important to at least have your, key shots. Like if you're a taco shop, you want to get your top selling items in high resolution. And so I think food photography is so key, and it's one thing that a lot of people skip out on that I think definitely negatively affects their pages.
Perfect. Food photography. And then Thomas, what is your nugget, your little golden nugget?
I would encourage each and every one of you to, before you get on social media or Facebook, Instagram, figure out what your identity and your personality is first. That's really important. And if you can, really encourage you guys, if you're an owner-operator, to as much as you can, participate in that connection with customers. It's 10 years later, and if you post something on Instagram or Facebook or Yelp or TripAdvisor, and like 80% chance it'll be me. People like to connect with owner-operators if you have the chance to. They like to build that relationship, and it's easier. Your response rates, it seems to be higher when they know that they're connecting with someone who is one of the operators or owners. And so we still do that today. And I know there's going to be a point to where you can't do that, but you'll be surprised at how much you can do and how much you'll enjoy actually cultivating real relationships with people through social media.
All right, so real relationships, find your brand and tone, food photography, and Facebook events. Those are the 3 golden nuggets from today. Within social media, this app's been around for I don't know, probably a year or two. It's definitely made some waves with Lil Nas X and Old Town Road. Made him a millionaire or billionaire. I don't know what he's doing with it now. TikTok. So are any of y'all using TikTok? Are your customers or clients using TikTok? Anyone?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Snapchat?
I think that Instagram and Facebook are probably the two most powerful platforms for a restaurateur because people buy with their eyes. Those platforms are a lot more visual than platforms like Twitter. So I think that, and also the fact that Facebook and Instagram are tied together it makes it a little bit easier for a restaurateur to manage those platforms together. And so, there are always going to be new emerging, social media platforms that we look into, and who knows, TikTok might be the next big thing. But until it is, I think you should put your resources where it's trackable and where you feel the most comfortable operationally.
Okay. I know, Thomas, you talked about the 30-day challenge you were doing earlier. One big thing I think that people now are seeing, and I don't know how many people have seen these yet, are these videos of people eating food.
Right.
And I haven't seen it yet. ASMR. There's probably another name for it. I like to eat, but I don't want people watching me eat. Have you seen these? Have they taken off in y'all's space?
I don't know if they've taken off in our industry, but they've taken off in their respective kind of thing. There are these things called mukbangs, and they're people that have millions of followers, and all they're doing is watching people eat food. I know it doesn't make sense. You're like, why would somebody watch that? But it's massive, massive. And we're probably going to start doing that just because, for me, I just did my 30 days, and so I'm probably going to start doing video content. One thing that we haven't mentioned, though, is YouTube. And don't get started on YouTube until everyone that leaves here today needs to have start your platform on Facebook and Instagram first. Okay, don't worry about anything else. If you don't have those two, you can't worry about anything else. But beyond that, YouTube is a video version of Instagram. There are millions and millions of people that use YouTube on a daily basis. They just sit there and they'll watch videos, and that gave birth to things like mukbangs that watch people eat. And so at some point, for us, we want to get into YouTube generating video content, either from a business perspective or from a food perspective, right? Something as simple as having our chefs prepare, this is how you cook a steak. This is, to me, eating our food for 3 minutes. I'm just going to wolf down one of my sandwiches. Anything and everything, because at the end of the day, as silly as it sounds, it is content that is going to gain people's interest. And make sure you do something that is true to you, right? You may not like eating food in front of people to watch. That's fine. But I guarantee you there's things that pertain to your business and your restaurant that is true to you, something that you enjoy. Again, I enjoy fitness. I enjoy eating clean, healthy. That's what I'm going to focus on. Someone else may focus on, for you, owner-operators that really enjoy cooking, a video of you preparing something from the heart, a family recipe, or maybe one of your recipes that people at home can learn from. That's content that people will gravitate to, that they'll watch, that you can share on both Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. So one video edited a few different ways can shoot out on 3 different platforms. Ideally, all it will cost you is some expertise and time. So that's the best way to do things.
No, I think that's great. One thing, and I'll give it to you, Linda, is kind of, I didn't give a golden nugget, and mine, I think, is really kind of an analytics data piece is video marketing, and video pieces now are the next wave, right? So it was posting text, then it was posting a photo, and now it's posting a video because no one wants to read, no one wants to look at a still image. They want everything given to them. So with videos, you're looking at 52% times more engagement on videos than even on photos, and then of course it's tripled that on a text post. So anytime you can just have a video, I take a simple thing of putting 4 or 5 photos together in a video app on my phone, and it just makes it into a video. So, video is really the next big wave, and kind of, we and I are going to touch on it, but even the live video, right? So Facebook Live, Instagram Live, the live stuff is now the next future, I feel like. So really video is another thing that we're going to talk about here. But Linda, kind of, what were you going to add to that?
Well, I was just going to say to Thomas's point, don't be intimidated by video and feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. You can also participate in Am I losing something? And jump in on some of the video trends that are going around. Like, for example, when lip dub was a big thing, we challenged our stores to create a lip dub video. And help me out here, guys. What was it called? Like the Frozen challenge, when you had everybody be still and then one person moving. So we had a bunch of locations that did that, and not only did the guests love being involved in it because they thought it was really cool that you were taking this video, but our stores would post it and people would share it over and over again. So this isn't something where you have to go out and come up with the next viral idea. You can be, like I said, at the local level, opportunistic and participate in some of the social media trends that are going around and get just as good return from that kind of activation.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about now, because we're gonna wrap it up here shortly, the future of marketing, and not now, not even what's in 10 minutes, because we know what's going to happen in 10 minutes is already going to be old news. What happens right now is it's old. But what really is the future of marketing, and where are we heading beyond this moment? And I'm going to tee that up with you, Rachel.
You know, honestly, I think that social media is a very, very safe place to invest your time and energy. I think that things are going to come and go, you know, like we were just talking about, you know, all of these different trends. But when you establish your Facebook and Instagram pages, like Thomas said, and just start to get a following, post consistently, wherever the next marketing platform is, you'll be able to implement it on your social media pages. And so consistency is very important. I would say that is a very, very safe bet for the future of marketing.
Perfect. Thomas, what do you think?
Well, I do want to mention one thing before, like, and to me, I know this doesn't sound future because you're like, well, everyone already does that. But for us, we are a very review-driven restaurant. And as you guys have realized in the last 10 years, you know, everything has become kind of review driven, even from the retail experience. That's free marketing that's right there. And you'll be surprised at how many people just kind of, you know, I get people hate Yelp, you know, and for various reasons, but listen, Yelp is like humidity in Houston. It's not going away, right? You might as well either embrace it and enjoy it as much as you can and get all the benefits out of it, because it's not going anywhere. And it always surprises me how many restaurateurs just, oh, I hate reviews. Well, I mean, there's literally thousands of people looking at your reviews all the time, you know, and now because of Facebook and Instagram driving people to either, you know, what's the first thing people are going to do when they hear about your restaurant? They're going to go on Google and they're going to look it up, right? And the first thing that pops up next to your address and your phone number is your Google review. And most likely it's going to be your Yelp page and it's going to be your TripAdvisor. And I don't want to sound bougie, but I don't eat at restaurants that have 3 stars on Yelp, you know? And not because I am that way, it's just because there's like 15,000 restaurants. Why would I eat at a restaurant that clearly people don't overall enjoy, right? I mean, I only have so much time in the day. I only have maybe 3 or 4 chances a month to have a date night with my wife. So I'm very particular about, you know, hey, if I'm going to try this place, at least generally give me 4 stars. You know, I mean, it's not rocket science to get to that point. And so I'm telling you this because I want you guys, when you leave, to take a look at all of the platforms that exist out there and see where you stand. You can hate it, have your pity party if it's not where you want it to be, but then figure out, what do I need to do to get this up? Because I guarantee you, you can create as many Facebook and Instagram platforms and you can do all the different things that you want to do. But if you're driving all these people to a 3.2 star restaurant, you're losing a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people that are not going to try it.
Just from an analytics standpoint, I had a restaurant open up recently, and I went and ate there. It's one of my clients that I work with, and I left them a review. It's a fabulous restaurant, but right now there are only like 12 reviews on this particular platform. But I got an email because I left the review from my personal page about how wonderful my experience was. And I got an email about a week later that said 20,000 people had viewed my review. 20,000 people. Isn't that like bonkers? I mean, these platforms reach so many more people than you would think they do. And so you have to keep that in mind for good reviews and bad reviews. Like I said, answering every single review is very important. If we get a good review, thank you so much for coming. We're so glad you enjoyed the restaurant. If you get a bad review, my suggestion would be to take the conversation offline as soon as possible. Always answer bad reviews, but sounds like you didn't have a great experience. We'd love to talk more with you about it. Can we get you to send us a direct or private message with your contact information so we can have a GM contact you? So, but these Yelp and Google Plus and Facebook reviews are very, very powerful, and a lot of people have their eyes on them right now.
Perfect, thank you. Linda, what about you? What's the future of marketing?
So I think the key to marketing, right, is to reach people where they are, and that is becoming increasingly difficult, right? Anybody in the room my age remembers when there were 3 TV channels that you could advertise on, and now there's not only thousands, but half the kids aren't watching TV anymore, right? They're not watching TV, they're not listening to the radio, they're not looking at billboards because when they're at a stoplight, they're on their phone. So I think the future of marketing is going to be hyper-personalized. Getting to people where they are, getting to them through their apps, through their platforms, through your loyalty program. Really finding ways to drill down to a more granular level to reach people, because the mass media days of the past are really over.
Awesome, thank you. So we're wrapping up here. We're going to take some questions from the audience. If you guys have them, get them ready. But before we do that, I'd like Linda to kind of just talk about Meg and what that is with TRA and kind of what you guys are doing in that space.
Yeah, so for those of you that work in restaurant marketing and you want to learn more, we actually have a group called the Marketing Executives Group, MEG, and it is a study group of the National Restaurant Association. We have about 300 to 350 operators and suppliers and all kinds of people that work in restaurant marketing, and we get together for a conference in Chicago right before the National Restaurant Show every year. So in 2020, we're going to be celebrating MEG's 40th anniversary. We have lots of great stuff planned. One of the things that we did this year to prepare, and you'll see it setting up outside there, we did kind of a graffiti activation with a Chicago artist named Kane One, and everybody at the conference got to create a small piece of this artwork that's out there, and that's going to kind of be the foundation for our 40th anniversary next year. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. I think there's some cards over there that have a discount code if you want to register for next year, and yeah, we would love to have any of you join us.
Awesome. I think the activation, is that the activation right there?
It's right there, yep.
Yeah.
You can
Okay,
see it
perfect.
outside the glass, yeah.
So I'm not going to thank y'all yet. We're going to take some questions. We've got about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. So if there are any questions in the audience, just raise your hand and we're going to float this microphone around to you guys. Or just shout it out.
I'm not sure if I'm going to phrase this right, but there's a lot of buzz, a lot of talk about people who call themselves influencers. And there's even some buzz now about people who say, I'm an influencer, I have 10,000 followers. What can you do for me? And they go in and talk to some people at a place. But in my own personal experience, I've seen that a lot of influencers may have a lot of followers, but doesn't necessarily generate business for a restaurant. So what I'm kind of doing is opening up for the 3 of you to comment on your experience with the so-called influencers.
Yeah, okay, so my experience with by the way, I have a deep love and respect for the blogger community. I think they're very valuable. My experience with bloggers and influencers is that basically, I think the newest wave of bloggers and influencers is the nano bloggers and influencers. It's people that have between 1,000 and maybe 10,000 followers. They're generally a little bit easier to work with than somebody that has 265,000 followers or 1 million followers. A lot of times people with more followers try and get paid for posting. And so what I love to do is work with groups like the Houston Food Blogger Collective, which Thomas is the founder of or a member of?
Just a member.
Okay, so the Houston Food Bloggers Collective is basically just a bunch of people that probably have full-time jobs, blog on the side. But if I'm able to work with a large group of nano influencers, when you have 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers as a blogger, you have the ability to interact with people, have relationships with people, get to know who's following your page. And so when you are working with, say, 10 nano influencers that have less followers but more interactions on their page, you're able to spread your message out a little bit farther. So there have been times where I've worked with, at a client's request, a larger influencer who had, I don't know, somewhere a little under 1 million followers. And basically all we got was like an Instagram story. It was a huge cost to us, and the story dies after 24 hours. I would say if you're working with bloggers, set expectations. Just say, hey, I would like for you to do this. I would like this many posts. This is what I expect from you. This is what I'm going to give you in return. And so connect with groups, like there are groups all over Texas, Food Bloggers Collective. So whatever city you're in, I would find your collective and just tap into these people that are really, really, they're blogging because they want to, not because they have to.
What about you, Linda?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Rachel said. That's what I was going to say. And, you know, I think social influencer marketing is sort of a fickle friend, right? I mean, when it first came out, you could just give somebody a free meal and they would come in and post about you. But now as people have begun to monetize it, it really is more like entering into a contract and what do you get and what do I get? And you really have to make sure it's worth it for you. Because to her point, a post goes away, right? It falls to the bottom of the list after a very short period of time. So I think we're going to see that change. You know, probably with what Rachel's saying, like the sort of the nano influencers. You know, I think we're going to see it evolve and hopefully come back to a little bit more level standpoint. But.
Obviously, everything that these guys have mentioned before. Well, I guess some things I would add is make sure you do your due diligence as well. Take a look at their page. It's not always a follower count, to her point. It's the engagement. Take a look at their last like 10, 15 posts. See how many people are engaging in them. Are people making legitimate comments? How many likes? How much are people interacting with that particular post? And check their history, right? Typically, for most of the bloggers, there's no one in Houston, I don't think, that has over like 100,000. So most of them you can get just by providing food and experience and try to connect with them. They'll come out and do, you know, they'll taste your food and hopefully pick a picture that performs well and post it. I don't like doing stories, to her point. They're too temporary. To me, it's not worth the amount of effort that you put into it. I like posts. I like making sure if they come out that they're going to do a post, or making sure we provide an environment to where that's kind of like what we both expect, right? But definitely embrace them. I love bloggers because it levels the field a bit. Before influencers, our hands are in all of our livelihoods or our marketing is in the hand of like maybe 3 or 4 food critics, right? I prefer that. Plus, you know, having a whole network community of people just like made up of you that enjoy food, that enjoy highlighting people. Those are the people that are going to generate potentially the viral content that helps mom and pops reach that mainstream kind of appeal. It's not the food critics. So, you know, definitely embrace influencers, but remember, they're like everybody else. You know, there's bad influencers that are doing it for the wrong reasons, and there's really good ones that really care about highlighting small business and helping them kind of gain some traction.
And I wouldn't be afraid to cross-platform with your bloggers either. What we forget, because we're in this bubble of an industry, is that there are lots of people outside our bubble that do not give a rip about like foodies and you know, the James Beard Awards and like all of these things that are just such a huge deal to us. And so I would say, you know, engage a lifestyle blogger that you follow. You know, there is a lot going on outside this bubble that, you know, you're able to engage a larger audience than, you know, who we currently impact.
I think we had another question.
Yes, I've got a question, but also to put on Thomas's. We actually recently had a couple influencers that came to a company I work with, and I just did a couple of searches on them. You can buy following in India for literally pennies on the pennies on the pennies. So this person in particular had 100,000 followers. Their interactions were less than my 17-year-old daughter. And so I'm like, this isn't the right person. But my question is for Linda, because you said something that got to my heart about data, because I'm a data-driven geek as well. My I just got them speaking on over there. What are you doing with your brand on Messenger with regards to gathering data to have better interactions? Or is anybody up there using Messenger for that reason?
Yeah, so what we've learned with Fuzzies and with our brand is that it's much more psychographic driven than it is demographic driven. So I think you have to be careful with that kind of data because, as Rachel's said a lot, social media is so powerful, and the temptation is there to drill down so granularly into who is your likely guest, right? It's somebody that's outdoorsy. They typically like this. They read this magazine, whatever. That then your social media campaign can almost flop because you have too small of an audience. So I think you have to balance the data. I think you have to look and say, okay, we want to find people that are likely to eat with us, lookalikes of those people, but I think you also have to try to expand that base a little bit. So that's kind of how we look at it. Not only who's liking us now and who's likely to, but what are the other areas of lifestyle that we can tap into and maybe get some people that weren't likely to eat with us before. So that's kind of how we use it from that standpoint. Does that answer your question?
With regards to big data and marketing, I also wanted to ask you guys, with companies like Google and Foursquare rolling out features that broadcast live data about popular times, crowd densities, and other real-time availabilities for seats and whatnot, I wanted to ask from a marketing perspective, how do you guys feel about that, and if that's a direction that you guys are interested in?
I couldn't really hear the question.
Just talking about real-time data as far as availability within your restaurant,
Streaming crowded times and stuff.
hours of operation.
Oh, gotcha.
All that kind of stuff.
I mean, for us, that data is always valuable. It just makes sure that you're able to understand. Like, for instance, for us, we love to see whenever our busiest times are, whenever we have open seats, and there are platforms that you can pay for. Even with Open Table, they have a thing where you will get bonus points just to fill in seats when you're not as busy. We love that because we may not use it, but there may be days on a Monday, Tuesday when you're like, man, it's raining. Like last week, people were freaking out about a hurricane, and there may be times when it's not as busy as you want. That's the kind of time that you want to turn on a particular function on Open Table or another platform and get those seats filled, right? Just having that data and that access is always valuable.
Yeah, and I have a slightly different take on that because I feel like I'll have franchisees that say, I really want you to help me figure out how to get people here on weekdays from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. And I go, there's a reason that nobody's there from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, right? They're working, they're picking up their kids from school. I mean, you can throw a lot of marketing dollars at that and get very little return. So we all know when restaurants are busy, we all know when they're not. And I think the thing that you have to be careful with is some of these new, I'll give Vine as an example. We thought that Vine was going to be the cutting edge, right, of marketing, and so we built this whole campaign around, people making a Vine video, and we tied it in with this charity, and we were going to donate $1 for every Vine video that was made that we got tagged in, and I think we raised $19, and I'm not even kidding. Some of these things, they come and then they go almost as quickly, so I think maybe give it a little bit of time, see if it gets some traction on its own before you invest anything in really jumping in.
Hi. I have a question sort of about what I would call concept-driven media campaigns. So obviously there's baseline level marketing, like announcing for events or promotions, daily stuff. But how do you go about creating a sort of campaign? Like a good example might be Chick-fil-A. They have all the billboards designed like eat more chicken. And without any promotion or coupon, everyone kind of recognized that as their brand. How do you go about sort of creating that to build for a company that's still relatively unknown?
You want me to take that one? So I think there's a couple of things. I mean, I think for us, we work with an agency, right? So they partner with us, and as we build out a yearly calendar, one of the things that we look at are where are the periods where we over-index in sales, where are the periods where we under-index, and you make a decision about, this one is we're going to need a new food item here because we really need to build up sales. This one's a little bit of a lull, so maybe we use this time period to promote the fact that we cater or we serve breakfast all day. So for us, it's kind of building out an annual calendar that says, in this time period, we want to go after, some new guests, so we're going to come up with new food items. Here we're going to do a loyalty promotion. And I think it has to be a mix, right? I think you have to look at what's worked for you, what hasn't worked, what's the seasonality. Like for Fuzzies, winter it's just a lower time for us because we sort of thrive off people that want to sit on a patio and drink a margarita and eat a taco. So I think it's being smart about that, and if you're lucky enough to have a good agency to work with, then they should be able to help advise you on, what you should be promoting during what windows.
Well,
Perfect.
and if you don't have an agency, I think the number one thing that you can do to create a campaign that works for you and your business is to look into what your following is. And so who is actually buying your product? Is it millennials? Then talk like a millennial. Is it people 65 plus? Then, employ some people that speak to that demographic. But if there's a fine line that you have to walk between keeping your own authenticity as a brand and catering to the people that are buying ultimately your food or your retail or what have you. So I think that if
Rachel,
you are not,
I think we're going to have to cut it.
Oh, okay.
I hate to cut you off. We got
music.
some great stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. That's the end of the panel. Linda, Rachel, Tom, thank you guys. If you have any other questions afterwards, feel free. We'll be hanging out offline. We can hang out over here and you can chat with them. So thank you guys again. Thank you all for coming. Have a great show, everyone. Thank you.